The crystalline chamber stretched high above the assembly floor, its walls catching starlight from the binary suns beyond. Deho stood in the center of the circular platform, his dark suit a stark contrast to the colorful forms surrounding him. Around him sat representatives from 7 different species, each one regarding the human ambassador with barely concealed disdain. The Vren matriarch clicked her mandibles together, the sound echoing through translation devices worn by every delegate present. Her insectoid form towered over the seat designed for her species, multiple arms gesturing dismissively. "Your request is denied, Ambassador." For the 3rd year in succession, Deho kept his expression neutral, though his hands clenched briefly at his sides. Behind him, standing in the observation gallery reserved for advisors, Admiral Giwan watched the proceedings with careful eyes. She had seen this same scene play out dozens of times over her career. The pattern never changed. "Matriarch, I must protest," Deho said, his voice calm and measured. "Human colonies require access to the Kepler trade route. The taxation on alternative paths is crushing our economy. We ask only for the same access granted to other council members." A rippling laugh came from the Melrose delegate, a being that existed in a tank of pale blue liquid. The translator rendered the sound as condescending amusement. "Perhaps if your species had evolved in water, you would understand the concept of patience. 40 years in the council is nothing. My people have been members for 6,000 years. The other delegates joined in what could only be described as mocking agreement. The Healther representative, a crystalline entity that refracted light into rainbow patterns, added its voice. "Young species must earn privileges through time and service. Your biology makes you hasty and emotional. This is well documented." Deho felt heat rise in his chest, but forced it down. He had prepared for this response. Every human diplomat who had stood in this chamber had faced the same dismissal. Age was everything to these species. Humans, with their brief lifespans in young civilization, were treated as children playing at galactic politics. With respect, Deho continued. "Human merchants are being charged fees 10 times higher than other species for the same routes. Our ships are delayed for weeks at inspection stations, while others pass freely. These are not matters of patience. These are matters of discrimination." The Vren matriarch leaned forward, her multifaceted eyes glittering. "Discrimination? No, Ambassador. This is hierarchy. Natural order. When your species has proven itself over millennia, perhaps you will understand. Until then, accept your place or leave the council entirely."
Ow.
The words hung in the air like a challenge. The chamber fell quiet. Even the constant hum of translation devices seemed to fade. Every delegate turned their attention to the human standing alone on the platform. In the gallery above, Giwan straightened. She had served in the human fleet for 25 years, fought in border skirmishes, negotiated tense standoffs with pirates and raiders. She had learned to read moments like these. Her hand moved subtly to her communication device, sending a prearranged signal. 3 pulses. The code they had agreed upon. Deho received the signal through the nearly invisible earpiece he wore. He looked up at Giwan, meeting her eyes across the distance. She gave a single, almost imperceptible nod. Permission granted. The decision they had debated for months, prepared for in secret, came down to this moment. The ambassador turned back to face the council. His posture changed, becoming somehow more solid, more final. "Very well," he said quietly. "Humanity accepts your invitation to leave." Confusion rippled through the chamber. The matriarch's antennae twitched. "Invitation? We offered no such thing. You said we could accept our place or leave the council entirely," Deho replied. His voice remained calm, but now it carried an edge of steel. "Humanity chooses to leave. Effective immediately, we withdraw from the Galactic Council. We will find our own way among the stars." Silence crashed over the assembly like a physical force. The Melrose delegate's tank bubbled furiously. The Healther's light patterns flickered in what might have been shock. The Vrin matriarch rose from her seat, her many legs clicking against the floor. "You cannot simply leave," she said, and for the first time, uncertainty colored her translated words. "No species has ever voluntarily withdrawn from the council. Then humanity will be the first, Deho said. He touched a control on his wrist device. Instantly, every screen in the chamber lit up with the same document, already signed and sealed with humanity's official codes. Our withdrawal is legal and binding under Council Charter, Section 47, Subsection 12. You will find all procedures have been followed correctly. Giwan was already moving, gathering the other human advisors and staff members present. They had rehearsed this evacuation. Every human in the council complex knew their role. Within minutes, they would be aboard shuttles heading back to human ships waiting at the edge of the system. The Vren matriarch attempted to speak again, but Deho was already walking toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the vast chamber, each one deliberate and final. The delegates erupted into chaos behind him, shouting questions and demands. But he did not turn back. In the corridor outside, Giwan fell into step beside him. Other human personnel joined them, all moving with purpose toward the docking bays. "The ships are ready," she said quietly. "All non-essential personnel have already departed. We're the last." "Any trouble?" Deho asked. "None. They're too shocked to react properly." Giwan allowed herself a small smile. "I don't think they believed we would actually do it." They passed through the grand halls of the council complex, spaces humanity had helped build and maintain. Human engineers had designed the life support systems. Human technicians kept the stations running smoothly. Human traders had established supply lines that fed thousands of species. All of that would end now. At the docking bay, their shuttle waited with engines already humming. The pilot, a young woman named Yuna, saluted as they boarded. "Course is set for the fleet, sir. Admiral Minho sends his regards and says the celebration can begin once you're safely aboard." Quan strapped into her seat as the shuttle lifted off. Through the viewport, she could see the council station growing smaller, its crystalline structures glowing against the darkness of space. Somewhere in that massive complex, delegates were probably still arguing, still trying to process what had just happened. Deho sat across from her, his diplomatic mask finally falling away. He looked tired but satisfied. "Do you think we made the right choice?" he asked G. I considered the question. She thought about the years of insults and dismissals, the economic barriers that had stunted human growth, the casual cruelty of species that considered themselves superior simply because they were older. She thought about what humanity could become without those chains. "I think," she said carefully, "that we just did what humans do best. We adapted. They wanted us to know our place. Now we'll show them what our place really is." The shuttle jumped to faster-than-light travel, leaving the council and its prejudices behind. Ahead lay uncertainty, but also freedom. Humanity would chart its own course now. They would rise or fall on their own merits, not on the judgments of species that measured worth in millennia rather than achievement. As they approached the human fleet waiting at the rendezvous point, Deho looked out at the hundreds of ships assembled there. Military vessels, science ships, colony transports, all flying human flags. "Then let's make sure they remember this moment," he said. The moment humans walked away. 3 weeks had passed since humanity's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council chambers, and the silence was becoming deafening. Hyman stood before the Council's intelligence display, her reptilian features drawn tight with concentration. As chief analyst for Council security, she had spent decades tracking threats and monitoring member species. Never had she encountered a situation quite like this. "They've gone completely dark," she reported to the assembled delegates. Her clawed finger traced patterns on the holographic star map. "Every human embassy has been abandoned. Not evacuated in panic, but methodically emptied. They removed everything, even the furniture. The buildings stand empty, but undamaged." The Vren matriarch shifted in her seat, mandibles clicking irritably. Surely they maintained some communication. "Trade vessels. Distress signals?" "Nothing," Hyman replied. "Human ships that previously traveled council routes have vanished. The colonies that once broadcast standard identification signals have switched to encrypted channels we cannot decode. It's as if they've simply disappeared from our sensors." In a research laboratory 3 levels below the council chambers, Borum worked alone at her station. The young human scientist had chosen to remain on the council station to complete her fellowship in quantum mechanics. She was one of only 15 humans who had stayed behind when the diplomatic corps departed. Most were scientists like her, deep into important research to abandon their work. But Borum was beginning to regret that decision. The other species treated her differently now. Where before she had been simply another researcher, now she received suspicious glances in the corridors. Some species avoided her entirely. Others asked pointed questions about humanity's intentions that she could not answer. Her communication terminal chimed softly. A message from her brother Minho, routed through military channels and heavily encrypted. She glanced around to ensure she was alone before opening it. "Little sister," the message began, and Borum smiled, despite her anxiety. Minho always called her that, even though she was only 2 years younger. "Hope you're staying safe there. Things are moving faster than we expected. Can't say much, but we're pioneering routes through the Tanis sector. Remember Dad's old saying about closed doors and open windows? We're finding a lot of windows." Borum read the message 3 times, parsing the carefully chosen words. The Tanis sector was considered too dangerous for regular travel by the Council. Unstable gravity wells, unpredictable stellar phenomena, and vast stretches of uncharted space made it a region most species avoided. If humanity was exploring there, they were taking significant risks. She composed a brief reply, keeping it vague in case Council security was monitoring. "Be careful with those windows. Some of us are still living in the old house. Don't burn it down while I'm inside." For weeks became 8. The Council convened emergency sessions almost daily now. The Melrose Trade Minister, an aquatic being named Sujin, presented reports that grew grimmer with each passing day. 17 minor species have reported contact with human merchants, Sujin announced, the bubbles in her tank rising faster with agitation. These species are not council members. Humanity is establishing independent trade networks. On what terms? Demanded the Healther representative. Favorable ones, Sujin admitted reluctantly. Better than council rates in most cases. The humans are offering technology exchanges, reduced shipping fees, and mutual defense pacts. 3 species have already signed formal agreements. The Vryn matriarch's compound eyes glittered dangerously. This is unacceptable. They use council knowledge and resources to compete against us. But Hyman shook her head, her analysis complete. That's incorrect, matriarch. Review of their activities shows they're using entirely new technology. Their ships are traveling routes we haven't mapped. They're producing goods using manufacturing techniques we don't recognize. Whatever they're doing, they developed it themselves. Borum discovered the truth by accident. She was analyzing quantum field data for her research when she noticed an anomaly in the background readings. It was subtle, easily missed, but her trained eye caught the pattern. She spent 3 days verifying her findings before she dared believe them. The humans had solved the Kepler paradox for 200 years. The brightest minds in the galaxy had struggled with this mathematical problem. It described a theoretical way to fold spacetime more efficiently, potentially doubling faster than light travel speeds. The Council had poured resources into solving it without success. And somehow, in the brief time since their departure, humanity had cracked it. Borum sat back in her chair, mind racing. This changed everything. With this breakthrough, human ships could travel twice as fast as Council vessels, without relying on the established trade lanes. They could explore regions previously thought inaccessible. They could establish routes that bypassed Council space entirely. She needed to tell someone. But who? The Council would demand her research data, would want to know how humanity achieved this breakthrough, and Borum knew, with sudden clarity, that sharing this information would be a betrayal of her people. Whatever humanity was building out there in the darkness, they had earned it through their own efforts. Instead, she sent another encrypted message to Minho. The math problem you were always terrible at in school? Someone solved it. People here are going to notice soon. Just wanted you to know the secret won't keep much longer. His response came within hours. Thanks for the warning. Don't worry about us. We're ready for whatever comes. In the council chambers, panic was beginning to replace confusion. A Korvax warrior named Taijin, commander of the Council's defense fleet, presented military intelligence that shook the assembly. Human vessels have been detected in 47 systems simultaneously, he reported. This should be impossible given their known fleet size. Either they've built far more ships than we estimated, or their travel speed has increased dramatically. Both, Hyman said quietly, her analysis complete. Their shipyards are operating at 3 times previous capacity, and yes, their ships are faster. Significantly faster. The Vren matriarch rose from her seat, her patience finally exhausted. Then we must act. Deploy the fleet to human space. Blockade their systems. They will negotiate when they face our military superiority. Several delegates voiced immediate agreement. The Melrose representative bubbled enthusiastically. The Halther's crystalline form pulsed with approval. But Taijin remained silent, his warrior's instinct warning him of danger. Matriarch, he said carefully, the humans were always formidable in combat. Their military technology was nearly equal to ours even when they were part of the Council. We don't know what they've developed in isolation. They're 1 species against 7, the matriarch countered. Our numbers are overwhelming. They will submit or be destroyed. The vote was called. 7 species voted to authorize military action against humanity. Only Taijin abstained, and his abstention was noted with disapproval. The Council fleet would mobilize within days. Borum heard about the decision through unofficial channels. A Thurak lab assistant, one of the few who still spoke to her kindly, mentioned it in passing. There's going to be a war, the assistant said sadly. I'm sorry. I know you have family out there. Borum felt her stomach drop. She immediately tried to send a warning to Minho, but her access to military channels had been revoked. Her civilian communications were being monitored. She was trapped on the Council station, cut off from her people, unable to warn them of the approaching danger. She sat in her quarters that night, staring at the stars through the viewport. Somewhere out there, humanity was preparing for the future they had chosen, and the Council was preparing for war. Borum could only hope that whatever windows her people had found would be enough to keep them safe from the storm that was coming. The silence from human space continued, unbroken and absolute. But Borum suspected that silence was about to end in the loudest way possible. 6 months after humanity's departure from the Galactic Council, the cracks in the Foundation were becoming impossible to ignore. Sujin floated in her tank before the emergency economic session, her aquatic features drawn with stress. As the Melrose Trade Minister, she had spent the last week compiling reports that painted an increasingly dire picture. The numbers don't lie, she announced, her translated voice carrying through the chamber. 43 minor species have now signed exclusive trade agreements with humanity. These are species that previously relied on Council markets. Our trade volume has dropped by 18% in just 6 months. The assembled delegates shifted uncomfortably. 18% represented trillions in lost revenue. Industries across Council space were beginning to feel the pinch. But the Vren matriarch remained defiant. Minor species are easily swayed by temporary advantages. Once they see humanity's true weakness, they will return. There's more, Sujin continued reluctantly. The infrastructure humanity built and maintained throughout Council space is failing. Without their maintenance crews, 17 major stations have experienced critical system failures. 8 trade hubs have been forced to close temporarily. The repair costs are astronomical because no one else has the technical expertise to fix what humans designed. Hyman added her intelligence report to the grim picture. Humanity has established what they're calling the Free Trade Coalition. Member species report unprecedented economic growth. Human shipping fees are 40% lower than Council rates. Their goods are higher quality and reach markets faster. They've effectively created a parallel economy that operates entirely outside our control. In a small office on the Council station, Borum worked through her own calculations. She had access to scientific journals from both Council space and the new human networks. The difference was stark. Human research papers were advancing at a pace that seemed impossible. They weren't just solving old problems. They were opening entirely new fields of study. She pulled up a paper on advanced materials science authored by someone named Dr. Soman. The techniques described would revolutionize ship construction, making vessels lighter and stronger simultaneously. Another paper detailed improvements to energy containment that increased reactor efficiency by 30%. A third outlined medical advances that could extend lifespans across multiple species. Humanity wasn't just surviving without the Council. They were thriving, and they were sharing their advances with their new allies, creating a web of mutual prosperity that made Council membership less attractive by the day. Borum's terminal chimed with a message from Minho. His communications had become more frequent now, less encrypted. The humans no longer seemed concerned about Council surveillance. You should see New Busan Colony, sis. When we left the Council, it was barely a frontier outpost. Now it's a major hub. Ships from 20 different species dock here daily. We're building a university that's accepting students from across the galaxy. Dad would be proud. She smiled at the message, but her heart ached. She was missing the greatest moment in human history. Trapped on a station with species that viewed her people as upstart children who needed to be punished for their defiance, the Haltha representative interrupted her thoughts by presenting its analysis to the Council. The crystalline being's light patterns flickered urgently as it spoke. I must report a significant development. Humanity has announced a breakthrough in quantum field manipulation. They've published the solution to the Kepler paradox in an open-access journal. The chamber erupted. The Kepler paradox had stumped Council scientists for generations. It represented the holy grail of faster-than-light travel research, and humanity had just given the solution away freely to anyone who wanted it. This is propaganda, the Vren matriarch insisted. The solution must be false. It's genuine, the Heltha replied. Our scientists have verified it. The mathematics are elegant and correct. Human ships are now twice as fast as our fastest vessels, and they've shared this knowledge with all their coalition partners. Sujin added another piece to the puzzle. This explains how human merchants are undercutting our shipping prices. They can make 2 trips in the time it takes us to make 1. Combined with their lower operational costs and more efficient routes, we simply cannot compete. Commander Taijin had been silent throughout the session, but now he spoke. The Korvax warrior's voice was grave. The fleet mobilization you ordered 3 weeks ago has encountered a problem. Human space appears to be empty. No defensive installations, no military presence, just automated warning beacons. Then the path is clear for invasion, the matriarch said eagerly. Or it's a trap, Taijin countered. The humans are too smart to leave their space undefended. Admiral Juan commanded their fleet, and she's never been reckless. This setup concerns me greatly. But the Council had committed too much political capital to back down now. The fleet had been assembled. Member species expected action. The matriarch ordered Taijin to proceed with the incursion into human space. Advance to their primary colony world. Show them the consequences of defiance. Taijin reluctantly agreed, though his warrior instincts screamed warnings. He had studied human military history during his time at the Academy. Humans were innovative and dangerous when cornered. They specialized in turning disadvantages into victories through unconventional tactics. An empty battlefield didn't mean an absent enemy. It meant the enemy was choosing when and where to reveal themselves. Meanwhile, in the outer reaches of what was once considered human territory, but was now something far more expansive, Admiral Guan reviewed tactical displays aboard her flagship. The Indomitable hung in space alongside 300 other military vessels, all invisible to conventional sensors. Thanks to new stealth technology, humanity had developed. Captain Minho commanded one of the stealth frigates. His ship positioned closest to the incoming Council fleet. His sensors tracked their progress with perfect clarity while they remained blind to human positions. They're maintaining formation, he reported. 7 dreadnoughts, 40 cruisers, and over 200 support vessels. They're not even trying to hide their approach. Jiwan studied the tactical situation with the calm focus that had made her one of humanity's finest military minds. The Council fleet outnumbered them significantly in terms of raw vessel count. But numbers weren't everything. Humanity had spent 6 months preparing for this moment. Every simulation had been run, every contingency planned, every weapon system tested and refined. They ignored our warning beacons, she said to her bridge crew. They chose to come here, threatening our people, our homes, our right to exist independently. So now they'll learn what happens when you corner humans and give them time to prepare. She opened a channel to the entire human fleet. Hundreds of captains, thousands of crew members, all waiting for her command. All ships. This is Admiral Jawan. The Council fleet is entering the Busan system. They come to force us back into submission, to punish us for daring to walk away. But we are not the species they think we are. We're not weak. We're not primitive. And we're certainly not going to bow to anyone ever again. The bridge crew of the Indomitable straightened at their stations. Juan continued, her voice carrying steel resolve. We're going to teach them a lesson today. Not through destruction, but through demonstration. We'll show them exactly what humanity has become. Implement protocol blackout in 3 minutes. All ships acknowledge. One by one, acknowledgements came in. Minho's voice among them, calm and ready. Stealth Group Delta, acknowledging. We're ready, Admiral. Guan looked at the tactical display one final time. The Council fleet was advancing into Busan space, confident in their numerical superiority, certain of their technological advantage. They had no idea they were sailing into the greatest tactical demonstration in modern galactic history. Then let's show them what fear really looks like, Juan said quietly. Execute protocol blackout on my mark. The Council was about to learn that humanity's silence hadn't been weakness. It had been preparation. Commander Taijin stood on the bridge of his dreadnought, watching the tactical displays with growing unease. The Council fleet had penetrated deep into human space without encountering any resistance. No patrol ships challenged them. No defensive platforms fired upon them. Only those automated beacons broadcasting their simple warning played on repeat. Turn back. This is your only warning. His sensor officer, a young Thorak female named Sion, checked her displays for the 100th time. Sir, I'm reading nothing. No ships, no weapons signatures, no energy readings beyond basic colony infrastructure. It's like they've completely abandoned this region. They haven't, Taijin said quietly. They're here somewhere, watching us. The Vren matriarch's voice crackled over the command channel from her flagship at the fleet center. Commander Taijin, you are proceeding too slowly. Accelerate to the Busan colony world. We will deliver our ultimatum and end this foolishness. Taijin wanted to argue, to insist on caution, but he had been overruled too many times already. Acknowledge, matriarch. All ships increase speed to maximum sublight. Maintain formation. The massive fleet surged forward, hundreds of vessels moving in practiced coordination. They were magnificent in their power, representing the combined military might of 7 advanced civilizations. Taijin should have felt confident. Instead, his warrior instincts screamed danger, light years away. Hidden behind a gravitational anomaly that masked their presence, Admiral Guan watched the Council fleets advance. Her tactical officer, an efficient woman named Yunji, provided constant updates. They've increased speed as predicted. They'll reach Busan Colony in 40 minutes at current velocity. What? Giwan nodded. Captain Minho's status of stealth groups? Minho's voice came through clearly, despite his frigate being positioned within the Council formation itself. All stealth groups in position, Admiral. We're distributed throughout their fleet. They have no idea we're here. It was remarkable, really. Human stealth technology had advanced to the point where their ships could fly within meters of enemy vessels without detection. The breakthrough had come from combining quantum field manipulation with advanced materials. Human ships didn't just hide from sensors. They became functionally invisible to all known detection methods. All ships, final systems check, Giwan ordered. We execute in 30 minutes. Remember, we disable only. No lethal force, unless absolutely necessary. We're making a point, not starting a war. 300 human vessels acknowledged in perfect sequence. Each captain knew their role. Each crew had trained for this moment. Humanity had spent 6 months preparing to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of, Today that preparation would be tested on Busan Colony. Citizens watched the approaching council fleet with calm determination. They had been evacuated to underground shelters as a precaution, but no one panicked. Governor Junho addressed the population via planetary broadcast. The council comes to threaten us to force us back into submission. But we are free people now. Our fleet stands ready. Trust in Admiral Jiwan. Trust in our brave military personnel. And trust in humanity's ability to surprise those who underestimate us. Taijin's fleet reached the outer boundary of the Bizan system. His sensors now clearly showed the colony world ahead, its orbital stations visible. A populated planet with millions of humans going about their lives. And still no military resistance. "Sir, I don't like this," Xian said nervously. "Where are their ships?" "Closer than we think," Taijin muttered. He opened a channel to the matriarch. "I strongly recommend we halt here and transmit our demands from a safe distance." "This situation is silence," the matriarch snapped. "We will proceed to orbital range and deliver our terms in person. These humans must see our full might arrayed against them." The fleet advanced deeper into the system. Taijin's hands gripped the arms of his command chair. Every instinct told him to order his ship to fall back, to get clear of whatever was coming. But duty held him in place. G1 checked the chronometer. 30 seconds to execution. All ships, power up weapons, and prepare to decloak on my mark. Around the council fleet, invisible vessels began routing power to their electromagnetic pulse generators. Human engineers had developed a directed EMP weapon that could disable ship systems without causing permanent damage. It was perfect for what they needed to accomplish today. 10 seconds, Giwan said calmly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Execute protocol blackout. The universe seemed to explode with activity. Suddenly, 300 human warships appeared throughout the council formation, materializing as if from nowhere. Before the council could react, before they could raise shields or charge weapons, precisely targeted electromagnetic pulses lanced out from every human vessel. Xian screamed as her sensors went haywire. Contacts. Hundreds of contacts. They're everywhere. They're inside our formation. Taijin barely had time to register what was happening before his ship's systems began failing. Weapons offline. Shields offline. Main power flickering. Secondary systems dying. All across the council fleet, the same scenario played out. In less than 5 minutes, every single council vessel was rendered completely helpless, drifting in space with minimal life support and no way to fight or flee. The bridge of Taijin's dreadnought was lit only by emergency lighting. Backup systems struggled to maintain basic functions. He stared at his dead tactical display in shock. The council fleet, the combined might of 7 species, had been neutralized without a single shot being fired in return. Jiwan's voice broadcast across all council frequencies. "Council fleet, this is Admiral Jiwan of the Human Defense Force. As you can see, we have completely disabled your vessels. Your weapons are offline. Your shields are down. Your faster-than-light drives are non-functional. You are entirely at our mercy." In the matriarch's flagship, chaos reigned. The proud Vren leader demanded answers that no one could provide. How had the humans gotten so close? How had they achieved such overwhelming tactical superiority? How had they disabled an entire fleet in minutes? Guan continued her broadcast, her tone measured but firm. "You came to our space to threaten us, to force us back into submission. You believed you were superior because you were older, because you have more ships, because you've been part of the council for millennia. Today, you've learned that age and numbers mean nothing against innovation and determination." Minho's stealth frigate hovered near Taijin's crippled dreadnought. He could see the bridge through his view screen, could see the crew scrambling to restore systems. He felt no satisfaction in their defeat, only a sense of professional accomplishment. The plan had worked perfectly. "We could have destroyed you," Juan said, and her voice carried absolute certainty. "Every ship in your fleet could have been reduced to debris. But that's not who we are. We don't seek to dominate or destroy. We seek only to live freely, to trade fairly, and to be treated with respect. Taijin managed to get his communication systems partially online. Admiral Jiwan, this is Commander Taijin. I hear you. What are your terms? Your systems will automatically reboot in 50 hours, Jiwan replied. That gives you enough time to drift clear of the gravity well and prepare for faster-than-light travel. I suggest you use the extra 2 hours after a reboot to reflect on what happened here today. Return to the Council. Tell them what you saw. Tell them humanity doesn't need them, but they might need us. On the Council station, Borum watched the intelligence reports flood in with tears streaming down her face. The human fleet had achieved a perfect tactical victory without killing a single enemy combatant. They had proven themselves overwhelmingly superior while showing mercy. Her people had done the impossible. Hyman stood beside her, the reptilian analyst's own emotions complex. Your species, she said quietly, is unlike anything the galaxy has seen before. This shouldn't have been possible. That's what makes us human, Borum said softly. Everyone keeps telling us what's impossible. We keep proving them wrong. As the Council fleet began its long, humiliating drift back toward their space, Juan allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They had sent a message today that would echo across the galaxy. Humanity was no longer the young species begging for acceptance. They were a force to be reckoned with, a civilization that would chart its own destiny, and they had only just begun. The Galactic Council chamber felt different now. Where once arrogance and certainty had filled the space, uncertainty and tension now hung heavy in the air. The 7 species sat in their designated positions, but their postures had changed. The Vren matriarch's mandibles no longer clicked with dismissive confidence. The Melrose delegate's tank bubbled with nervous energy. Even the Halther's crystalline form seemed dimmed, its light patterns subdued. Ambassador Deho walked into the chamber for the first time in 8 months. He moved with quiet dignity, his steps measured and purposeful. Behind him walked Admiral Jiwan, no longer just an advisor, but a symbol of humanity's newfound strength. They took their positions on the central platform, not as supplicants, but as representatives of an independent power. In the observation gallery, Borum watched alongside Hyman. The two had formed an unlikely friendship during the tumultuous months since humanity's departure. The reptilian analyst leaned close to whisper, Your ambassador looks different, more confident. He feels different, Borum replied quietly. We all do. Walking away was the best thing that ever happened to us. The Vren matriarch was the first to speak, and her tone held none of its previous condescension. Ambassador Deho, you requested this meeting. The Council has agreed to hear your terms. It's terms, not requests. The shift in language was profound. Deho noted it with satisfaction, but kept his expression neutral. Thank you, Matriarch. Let me begin by clarifying humanity's position. We did not request this meeting to rejoin the Council. We requested it to establish a new framework for interaction between equals. Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. The Melrose representative, Sujin, bubbled forward. Ambassador, the Council has reviewed the past 8 months carefully. We acknowledge that our previous treatment of humanity was perhaps too rigid. We are prepared to offer you full Council membership with reduced taxation and improved trade access. That is generous, Deho acknowledged. But humanity is no longer interested in Council membership. We have built something different, something better. He activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Blue markers indicated human colonies and allied species. There were far more than the Council had realized. The Free Trade Coalition now includes 72 species. Our combined economic output exceeds Council GDP by 12% and growing. Our territory covers 3 major spiral arms. Our technological advancement continues to accelerate beyond what any single species has achieved. Giwan stepped forward to add her piece. Militarily, the recent demonstration in Busan space should have made our capabilities clear. Human defense forces are smaller than the Council fleet, but our technological superiority gives us a significant tactical advantage. We have no interest in conquest, but we are more than capable of defending ourselves and our allies. Commander Taijin, present as the Council's military advisor, nodded slowly. I can confirm Admiral Jiwan's assessment. The Council cannot match human military technology at this time. It would take us years to develop equivalent systems, assuming we could even solve the underlying scientific problems. The Healther representative's crystals pulsed with what might have been frustration. Then what do you want from us? If you don't need the Council, why are you here? Deho smiled slightly. Because we believe cooperation is better than competition, because despite our differences, there are benefits to working together. But such cooperation must be built on mutual respect, not hierarchy. He outlined humanity's proposal. It was elegant in its simplicity. The Council would remain as it was, governing its member species according to established protocols. Humanity and the Free Trade Coalition would operate independently, but both groups would establish formal diplomatic relations, open trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, and scientific exchange programs. No special privileges based on age, Deho emphasized. No taxation without representation, no condescension or discrimination. We interact as equals or not at all. Sujin studied the proposal carefully. As trade minister, she understood the economic implications immediately. This would give both groups access to each other's markets without the friction of competing systems. Our species could trade directly with coalition members. Our merchants could use your faster shipping routes. Exactly, Deho confirmed. Everyone benefits. Council maintains its traditions and structure. Humanity maintains its independence and freedom. But we all prosper together. Delegates conferred quietly among themselves. The matriarch looked particularly conflicted, her multiple eyes showing emotions that were difficult for humans to read. Finally, she spoke. This is unprecedented. The Council has always operated on clear hierarchy. Older species guide younger ones. It is the natural order. Natural order, Jiwan said quietly, is what every dominant group says when they want to justify their dominance. But the universe doesn't care about natural order, it cares about adaptation and innovation. Humanity adapted, we innovated. And we proved that age doesn't equal wisdom or capability. Taijin surprised everyone by speaking up. The matriarch raises a valid concern, but Admiral Jiwan is correct. My people, the Korbaks, pride ourselves on warrior tradition. We believed our millennia of martial experience made us superior. The humans taught us that new thinking defeats old habits. I support this proposal. Other delegates began nodding. The Melrose agreed. The Healther's light patterns brightened with approval. Even some of the species that had been most opposed to humanity's independence recognized the wisdom in the proposal. The Vren matriarch sat silent for a long moment, her mandibles working as she processed the situation. Pride warred with pragmatism. Finally, she clicked a formal agreement gesture. Very well. The Council accepts your terms, Ambassador Deho. We will establish formal relations between equals. Borum felt tears welling up again as she watched the agreement being formalized. Her brother Minho was out there commanding a frigate in the new combined task force that would patrol the borders against pirates and raiders. Her father, who had dreamed of humans being treated with respect among the stars, would have been so proud. Hyman put a gentle claw on Borum's shoulder. Your species did something remarkable. You didn't just demand respect, you earned it. The following week saw rapid changes across the galaxy. The first Joint Council Coalition Trade Summit was held. On New Busan, the human colony that had become a symbol of independence and prosperity. Species that had once sneered at humanity now sent delegations. Eager to learn from human scientists and engineers, Admiral Giwan found herself training Council military officers in new tactical doctrines. She established an academy on Earth where students from dozens of species came to study. The Korbaks sent their best warriors. The Thorak sent strategic analysts. Even the Vren, reluctantly, sent observers. Captain Minho commanded the first joint patrol force, with ships from 5 different species under his tactical command. They hunted pirates in the Outer Rim, protecting trade routes that benefited everyone. His crew was mixed. Humans working alongside aliens who had once considered them inferior. The cooperation was awkward at first, but respect grew quickly. Sujin worked directly with human economic advisors to rebuild the shattered trade networks. She found them brilliant and creative, approaching old problems from entirely new angles. Within months, trade volumes exceeded pre-separation levels. Both Council and Coalition prospered. Daiho established a permanent diplomatic mission on the Council station, but it was no longer a lone ambassador begging for scraps. It was a full embassy, staffed by professionals who negotiated from a position of strength. When issues arose, both sides worked together to find solutions. Neither able to simply dictate terms to the other, Borum completed her research fellowship and was immediately offered positions at 6 different universities across Council space. But she chose to return home to teach at the new academy on Earth. She wanted to be part of humanity's next chapter, training the scientists who would continue pushing the boundaries of what was possible. One evening, she stood on the observation deck of a transport ship carrying her home, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. Minho's voice came through her communication device. "Welcome home, little sister. We saved you a spot in the celebration parade?" "There's a parade?" she asked, laughing. "There's a lot of parades. We have a lot to celebrate." And they did. Humanity had walked away from a system that didn't value them. They had found their own path, built their own alliances, and developed their own strength. They had proven that respect couldn't be given based on age alone. It had to be earned through achievement, demonstrated through capability, and maintained through mutual dignity. The moment humans walked away, fear had gripped the Galactic Council, feared losing their comfortable superiority, their established order, their ancient privileges. But when humans returned, they brought something more powerful than fear. They brought change, innovation, and a new vision of what galactic civilization could become. Daiho stood in his office on the Council station. One last time before returning to Earth for a well-earned rest, he looked out at the stars, at the vast expanse of space that humanity now navigated as equals rather than subordinates. Admiral Guan joined him, 2 architects of humanity's transformation. Every day,